The author starts in this section with a problem about how many people in a classroom share the same birthday. And while it can be of some interest, it can also be a little hard to follow. And the main point of this section, as far as I'm concerned, is looking at false positives, false negatives, sensitivity, and specificity. So that's what we're going to concentrate on. So there's a 2x2 table given here. So somebody takes a test, and the test is either positive, showing the presence of a disease, or negative, showing that it isn't there. Now you see for the rows coming across, if they have the disease, it's positive. If they don't, it's negative. So if you look at the top row, where 66 and 4, there are 66 people who actually had a positive test result, and they actually have the disease. In the second row, you see out of the 827 plus 3, that's 830 people who took it, it said 827 don't have the disease, and it's exactly right. So it looks like it's doing pretty well. But no tests are 100% correct. So you see there are actually 3 people who had a positive test result who in fact had a minus for disease, meaning they didn't actually have the disease. And we call that a false positive. And there's 4 people who don't have the disease. It said they don't have the disease, but in fact they do have the disease. That's a false negative. Both cases are not something we'd like to see happen, but that's the way it goes with a realistic test. So, how many people did it correctly identify? Well, if you look at the people who had the disease, there were 66 it correctly identified, and there were 4 it incorrectly said did not have it. So that's how many it was sensitive to. And in this particular example, there were over 94% that it correctly identified. Now, specific means in this case, it could specify that this many people did not have the disease and do it correctly. So out of 830, it's specified that 827 didn't have it. So it did an excellent job on this. Over 99% of the 830 tested, it said did not have the disease and was correct on that. Prevalence says how many out of the population actually had the disease. So we look at how many had the disease. That's the plus on the first row, the topmost row, and there were 70 total. And it's out of how many total we're looking at. So it's not just the first row or the second row, it's all those rows combined. That's 70 for the top row and 830 for the bottom row. And it says there was about 7.8% of the population had the disease. So those are the terms we're interested in: false positive, false negative, sensitivity, specificity, and prevalence. And this is actually called the prevalence rate, the rate of disease in the population. So now I give you a table here. I want you to take a few minutes, copy it down, and I want you to find the prevalence, the sensitivity, and the specificity. And that ends this one.